There's a new Netflix series that is somewhat popular at the moment. It's called Squid Game. You might have heard of it. And some parts of the show are pretty easy to integrate into Minecraft, or at least to translate it into Minecraft. So, who would have guessed? Well, it is in the title, so yeah, we are going to make Squid Game in Minecraft. We'll build a couple of the rooms in the games, also the play areas, and of course some other things that we can find. And of course at the end, we'll make everything work with comment blocks. I guess I should probably put a spoiler warning up, because, well, obviously you'll see something of the show and how the show works, so yeah, if you haven't seen it, you probably should do that before, or at least be aware. So, today we unfortunately only have the time to do 2 of the rooms, but I promise you, at least those will be all the better. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and start building the Squid Games. At first I wasn't really sure what to start with, so eventually I settled on building the bed/sleeping room. I made a nice little floor texture and put in the walls, textured those as well, and of course tried to make everything accurate to the show. Also those little details on the walls. There's not really a way to make those very accurate, but I did my best. Then I basically realized that everything was way too small, so I enlarged everything a little bit, and then it worked. I made the little doors on either side here. Then it became time to make the main entrance, which actually really wasn't that easy. It's actually quite hard to make a shape that is oval and does look like something you're referencing it to, so eventually I did kind of find something that looked okay, and just went with it. Made everything accurate. Then of course added the ramp and the stairs, then the main gateway. I had to change a couple of things so that it looks more accurate. I had to actually implement a texture pack, and I think now it actually looks really good. Then I even made the room behind that door, which actually isn't that visible many times, but I found a scene where it was just fine. Then I also accurately replaced the doors because, well, they just didn't seem right. And added the little screens on top of the entrance. Trying to do the roofs was actually a lot more difficult than expected, because there's really not many scenes where you actually see it. As you can see, I tried to make it out of the similar material as the wall and then something darker, but that just really didn't work. And then finally I found a scene where I could base the ceiling off. Here you can also see the big money pig. Now onto the beds, which is probably the most important part of this room. I also used some of the texture pack, for example making trapdoors look like some steel framing, and then of course changing the ladders to just fit in a little bit better. So if you now look at all of this, I think it looks pretty accurate to the show, and I think it actually looks pretty good. It somewhat represents all the size of it, and I think it just feels right. I've actually also counted all the beds. We have 404, which is only a couple beds short of the actual number, about 52, but I think it's actually not too bad. So yeah, we're only 52 short, and that's probably because of the corners here, and we can't really put anything here, but I think it looks pretty good. So yeah, this is all of the room here. And in my opinion, yeah, it just seems right. Just seems like it just feels appropriate. But this room isn't the only thing that I did, because what are the Squid Games without any games? So of course I did the first game. Starting off the exact same way as before, making the floor, texturizing it, making the lines, and then going on to the walls. The walls were actually quite tricky, because we can't really just put a texture of the background like the game has it in Minecraft. I could technically do it with paintings, but that's actually gonna be just way too much work. But I think I found a pretty acceptable way of just putting glass as the wall and putting a couple of blocks in a row behind it to make the terrain. Then it was time to make the first buildings, the buildings where the players basically came out of at the start of the game, duplicating the houses and making 3 of them, and then texturizing the walls. But the walls themselves aren't finished without the little holes for the guns, making the screen at the end of the game, and now a little bit more about the technical stuff. We have a couple of comment blocks which actually make all of it work. We have some more comment blocks, and the neat part is the way it works is we can actually open the doors, which looks like this, and we can even close them again, which looks like that. It's pretty simple, but it looks very cool. But now let's get into the part that is arguably the best. The doll. It can turn around and then look at you, with its body turned away from you, which is very creepy, but that's exactly what it's supposed to be. I haven't connected everything up yet, so it's not fully playable, but all the functions and everything that you need to play it are basically already there, just not in place. Also the sounds, which I had to make with note blocks, but I think it worked just fine. So all I basically have to do now is to put on my Squid Game jumper and try to survive. Just kidding, did you think that I would really just throw myself in there? No way. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching this episode of, let's just call it, making Squid Game. It actually took a lot of brain cells of mine and a lot of work to make everything that I've done so far work, and honestly, I'm pretty proud of it. I hope this is more or less the best Squid Game version so far, and if not, I hope at least it's good enough for you. It definitely is for me, so yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I can see you in the next episode or in the next video of mine. So with that, thank you very much for watching, and until then, see ya.